Welcome to episode 25 of the Animorphs read-along broadcast. Well, folks, we've made it to my favorite book in the entire Animorphs series, the big one. Animorphs number 22, The Solution. I don't even know why I love this book so much. It's this great combination of, deep introspection and, dark internal conflicts, pretty grim character development. The stakes have never been higher for the Animorphs. Circumstances never grimmer. This is just an awesome book. This story really hinges on the relationship between Jake and Rachel. I think their conversations and their interactions are what make this book so fabulous. At the end of last book, Tobias was dead and Jake was dying in the mall in Tyromorph. Axe has been sent to get Rachel, and upon hearing that Tobias is dead, she makes a decision that she is going to kill David. It's not even a question, there's no doubt. She is going to kill David. She and Axe track down Jake and David in the mall. Things get ugly. Jake seems to be bleeding out. He's unconscious in Tiger Morph. Go to Marco's house to warn him about everything. And on the way, Rachel's having all these intense thoughts. She says, "It bothered me that Jake had sent Axe to get me specifically. Once he knew that extreme measures might be taken, he said, 'Get Rachel.' What did that mean? Was that how Jake thought of me? As some crazed, violent nut who would do anything? Besides, wasn't it true?" Another part of my mind argued. Wasn't it true? Wasn't I just the person to call if you needed to kill an Animorph? Rachel's realizing something about herself, and she's not sure if she likes it. She and David go on this wild chase through the air in bird morphs, and she's gonna kill him. She has this plan to get him to fly into some power lines. At the end of the night, David gets away, and everybody kind of regroups, and it turns out Tobias is not dead. Everybody comes out of it okay. But they're exhausted, another sleepless night, and they still have no idea how to stop the Yeerks from infesting all these leaders at the summit. Finding out that Tobias is alive kind of cools Rachel off a little bit. Her bloodlust kind of dies down, and she's less determined to kill David. And this just leads to more thinking and more introspection. The next day at school, David shows up morphed as Marco. He makes some pretty heavy threats. He says he wants the blue box, and if he doesn't get it, he's going to go to Visitor 3 and tell him all about the Animorphs and reveal all their secrets. And that is just not a threat that you want to be making to a bunch of tired Animorphs. She goes and confronts David in the hallway with a fork. Things actually get physical. And so she grabs his head and puts a fork against his ear, and she basically threatens to kill his parents if he goes to Visitor 3. And man, it is some harsh shit. Despite all of the crazy stuff going on with David, they still have to deal with the summit. So they come up with the kind of brilliantly simple plan to just wreck shit. They morph into elephants and rhinos and come out of the ocean and just blow the place apart. Sadler, who's Jake and Rachel's cousin, is not getting any better. They go visit him at the hospital, and surprise, David has morphed Sadler, and he's basically planning on living as Sadler from now on. And this is when everything just kind of comes out in the open. Jake says, "I think you're the bravest member of the group. I think in a bad fight, I'd rather have you with me than anyone else. But yeah, Rachel, I think there's something pretty dark down inside you. I think you're the only one of us who would be disappointed if all this ended tomorrow." He continues, "I worry about you, Rachel, more than any of the others except Tobias. I feel like this war is to you like booze is to an alcoholic. I don't know what will happen to you if it all ends someday." Rachel responds, "You worry about me? What do you think you're going to do? Jake, you're a leader now. You make life and death decisions all the time. You've learned to do that. And you've learned to use people. You're not even in high school yet, and you're the most wanted person in the Yeerk Empire. Visser 3 would trade his blade ship for your head on a stick." There's a lot of just raw truth coming out in this conversation. Rachel and Jake are both heading down some pretty intense paths, and they're right when they say that if they're not careful, they won't be able to come back from this. And I think out of everyone in the group, maybe except Tobias, these two are the ones who are at risk of losing themselves the most. This conversation, I think, acts as a little bit of a wake-up call for both of them. Jake apologizes for using Rachel, and she has now backed off of the idea of killing David. She wants to act as a group. She wants them all to share the responsibility for this. In the end, it's Cassie who understands people at their core, who's able to become master manipulator and set this trap for David. What's so just embarrassing about this trap is the way that they're acting like David has just beat them, and they're gonna have to give in to his demands. and they just keep inflating his ego more and more, and it's just so transparent, but this kid's ego is so fragile, and he's such a moron that he actually falls for it, and it leaves him trapped in a box in Mousemorph. Rachel and Axe are the ones who stay with him for the rest of the 2 hours. She says that, you know, it won't bother her as much as it would bother the rest of them, which is a blatant lie. Rachel's sort of embracing the other side of being able to do the dirty work, which is protecting her friends from having to do it. They're all responsible for what happened to David, but Rachel is willing to sit through these horrible 2 hours of hearing David plead and beg and scream and cry. So yeah, the David trilogy. If nothing else, these books just raised the stakes of the Animorphs series in general. I think for Jake, Rachel, and Cassie, these are huge books in terms of character development. We've seen that Cassie can be not just empathetic, but manipulative, that Rachel is becoming someone she is not sure if she wants to be, and that Jake occasionally uses his friends like chess pieces. So those are all my thoughts about Animorphs number 22, The Solution. The next book is the Hork-Bajir Chronicles. If you want to keep up with this read-along, subscribe to this channel or follow me on Twitter, and I will see you on Monday.